Thanks for joining me tonight. On tonight's live, I'm going to be talking about whether you should start a business, or if you've got an existing business, whether you should start another business or a different business. Because I think there's a lot of stuff you see online about, everyone should be having side hustles, everyone should be running businesses, everyone should have all these passive forms of income. And I think like a lot of these things, the reality is sometimes different from the rhetoric. Okay, and you've got to be very careful when you hear people talking about business, because I think we hear the word business and you might think one thing and the person who's saying it might think another. I don't know about you, but it sort of feels like winter today. I don't know about you guys. It really does feel like winter today. I went for a walk about 5 o'clock and I came back and it wasn't cold, but it sort of felt, like we should be getting the fires on and stuff. And I think that's sometimes how it can get in people's lives when you look at your finances and you think about what you're missing out on. And that's why I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about what it means to be in business, because there's lots of different ways of being in business and lots of different benefits and pros and cons. And I want to talk to you also about the downsides of being in business, not just the upsides, not to put you off, but just so that you are pre-armed and you're aware of what's going on. If you've got any thoughts, comments or ideas about the whole issue of business, any opinions you've got, chuck them in the comments box. Love to hear from everyone. And of course, for the people who are listening on the replay, I'll be sharing any of those thoughts and ideas, because obviously you won't be able to see them. So tonight, let's just spend a little bit of time talking about what we mean to be in business. And I think let's just take a step back. What do we mean? There are two types of businesses, aren't there, really? There's being a self-employed person and selling your services, whether that's professional services, whether that's a trade or anything like that. You could be a hairdresser or you could be a dentist, okay? But basically what that means is that you are working for yourself. You're self-employed. You might have some staff, but essentially if you stop working, the money stops coming in. And nothing wrong with that at all, being self-employed. Lots of people like being self-employed because they can decide the hours they work and who they work with and what they charge, and it can be tax beneficial, etc. Nothing wrong with that, but you own a job. You don't own really a business. It's very rare for you to be able to sell that business for a capital value to someone, because you are the business, right? What you own is a job. Now, it may be a very lucrative job. It might be on your terms. You might really enjoy it, and that's fine. I'll come back. Oh, yeah, thanks for that, London Beauty Queen. I'll come back to that in a minute. So owning a job is not the same as owning a business that you would necessarily sell. So it is a business, but it is, again, it's the idea that if you stop, the money stops, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you must understand. So give an example where that might morph into something different is you're an electrician, okay? So my friend Craig, who's been doing my electrical work for 15 years, brilliant guy. If you need a guy in Suffolk, he's the man. Now, Craig is very successful and he's very busy, okay? But Craig doesn't have a business. What he does is he owns a job. He owns a self-employed trade, and he's very, very successful at it. If he wanted to create a business, what he'd do is like the guy from Pimlico Plumbers has done. The guy, Charlie, whatever his name is, at Pimlico Plumbers, he doesn't actually do the work. Now, you could still do the work, but the point is he's leveraging his time and his experience through other people's efforts. And that's really what a business is. It's leveraging, a business that you can actually goes on beyond you, or is not wholly or fully reliant on you, or that you could sell, is a business essentially where you are leveraging other people's time, effort, knowledge, experience, vigor, etc. And so the idea of Craig, if he wanted to become a business as opposed to a trade or owning a job, he would have to start thinking about hiring other electricians, right? He'd have to start thinking about hiring people. Now, this is where it gets difficult and where people are sometimes confused, is that you start off as a technician doing something and you're good at nails, or you're good at beauty products, or I don't know, you're good at gardening, and then you start bringing in staff because you're busy, right? But you don't really think it through. You're not thinking about taking yourself out of the equation. You're thinking, oh, I'm busy, so I need someone to help me. And that's when the problem happens, because often you still got all your own work to do, and then you're trying to learn to manage other people, but they don't care about it or haven't got the same skills or the enthusiasm or determination that you've got, okay? And they don't do things quite as good as you do. And that's the problem, is that most what we call technicians who are good at the core job or the core service or trade, they're not always, it's luck if you are, but you're not always good at managing other people. And then it becomes frustrating, and then you let people down, and then you feel like you're chasing your tail, or rather you can feel like you're chasing your tail. So that's a no man's land. But then the golden nirvana, as it were, the sunny uplands, is when essentially you've got a business which doesn't wholly rely on you. It will run without you being there, even if you're still overseeing things. But I'm talking about actually turning up. If you had 3 or 4 weeks off, it wouldn't all stop. It doesn't rely wholly on you, and you potentially could sell it to someone. So in other words, when you've had enough time, a bit like a property, right? When you've had enough and you want to move it on to someone or turn the money back into something, you can sell it on. So obviously when I left my wealth management business in 2015, obviously it didn't wholly rely on me. Now obviously when they were buying my share, they wanted to tell me how important I was to the business and how it was all going to collapse in a heap and then have to employ another person like me. That was to keep the price down. What I said to them was, well, I don't really do a lot. I'm being honest with you. I may do important stuff, but really I'm more of a figurehead and I'm not actually doing a lot of doing. I hadn't been doing a lot of doing for many years in that business. And some people would say, bloody good job as well. But the reality was, when I stepped away from my wealth management business, some clients did leave and some clients perhaps might not have come on that would have come on, but it didn't collapse in a heap and it's continued to grow and it's continued to be very successful. So that's an example of something which was a business. Now, it's still very much part of my personality, and the firm doesn't have the same sort of profile that it had when I was involved in it, but it's still very successful. It's still serving most of the clients that I knew before, and plus many more since. It's been 5 or 6 years since I wasn't in that. So that's an example of making yourself sort of what I call surplus to requirement. I got myself in a position where I wasn't absolutely essential to the business. And you know what? There was a number of ways that happened. I'll come back to in a minute and we'll touch on that. Not saying it's the right way for everyone, not saying you have to sell your business, not saying you have to leave it. But if you do have a business of any description, there are only 3 ways you can leave it. You can walk out, you can be pushed out, or you can be carried out. In other words, you're dead. And I think it's quite important to understand, if you get into anything, just like a property deal or a business or anything else, you've got to understand how you're going to get out of it, right? So for instance, if you're going to get involved in a property business, you've got to be understanding how you're going to get the value out of it and what the ultimate end goal is. So let's just have a look at some of the comments. Got a lot of people joining tonight. I'll have to stay away. I'll have to stay away a lot longer. Good to see some good. I look tan, do I? I was probably I'm a bit dirty, probably haven't washed properly. No, I'm joking, but I do tend to get out and about. I love being outside, as you know. What are my thoughts on drop shopping? Yeah, can I come back to that in a minute? I'll have a look at that. Let's have a look here. Story of my life. Yeah, no work. Yeah, lots of work, no money. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look here. Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, let's just talk about another aspect. So we've talked about owning a job, okay, which is a trade or profession. If you stop work, it stops work earning, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a genuine business. We've talked about the person who's got a job and then hires some people in because you're busy. It's difficult because you didn't get up in the morning thinking you wanted to be a man manager or a people manager or have HR policies or do grievance procedures and stuff like that. But you're just busy, but you're not really still a business, because if they all left you, you'd have to do all the work. Then we've got the business, which is a business that's not wholly reliant on you. You may be important, but there's other people that can do the work. There's other people who can share the load, and it is a proper business where if you spent a month away from it, 2 months away from it, it would continue. Then there is the final end of this, and I've got experience in all these areas. You've got the business, which is someone else's business, whether it's a startup or an established business that you decide to invest in. Now, it could be money that you invest. It could be your contacts you might be able to introduce to that business in return for a share of it or some profit share. It could be that you look out for that business for opportunities. What you're looking for is to perhaps find other businesses for them. So there's lots of different ways that you can add value, but most of the time it will be investing probably money or contacts, or acting as some kind of sales or marketing, or providing something for the business in return for some form of equity or profit share. So I've done that. And I've invested in various different other people's businesses. And don't get me wrong, don't think it's easy. Don't think this is the get out of jail card. You put your feet up and that's it, and the money just rolls in. It can in some ways be more challenging than running your own business because you are not in full control. The beauty is that, especially when you're older, like me, you've obviously know lots of people, you have credibility, you have money, you have experience. And you also you can bring something to bear to those businesses, which perhaps is more than just money. It's understanding, as I say, and it's contacts, and it's also being in business is a lonely place, right? Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, even a business owner of one, can be very lonely. So tell me if you know of anyone that's been involved in business. Give me your comments in the comments box. If you know of anyone who you see as being a busy fool. And what I mean by that is they're very, very busy, but they don't seem to be getting ahead. Because I've been there. I've been a busy fool many times in my life, thinking that being busy was being successful, or that the golden returns are going to come tomorrow, or it's always about, because entrepreneurial people can be very optimistic, okay? But the problem is you don't always tell yourself the truth, or you don't always see the truth. You don't want to see the truth. You're like sort of, you're like Rambo. You want to bash the door in and get the job done. But so they're the different ranges of business, those 4 types of business. And why is it we might get involved in any kind of business? Well, I think it varies. Everyone's different, right? Everyone's got their own motivation. Sometimes it's because you want control. You're a control freak. And that could be, you'll have perfectionism. You don't like people telling you what to do. You're unemployable. I mean, like me, all of those things, I was unemployable. And it could be that you want tax efficiency. I mean, if you're an employee earning over £50,000 a year, it can be quite hard on income tax, can't it? And national insurance and stuff can be quite expensive. But however, don't forget, there could be pension contributions, there could be sick pay, there could be other benefits. So just to have your own business or be involved in a business purely for tax is not the way forward. I mean, I've invested in several businesses and I've had tax benefits for investing in them, but I didn't invest in them for the tax benefits. The tax benefits make it a bit easier. So give you an example, one of my investments is probably worth 10 times what I put into it, okay? And I put a significant amount of money into this business, like significant in my world, over 6 figures. And it's probably worth 10 times what I put into it. And if and when I exit that business, I will make all of that return will be tax-free, okay? I won't pay any income tax, won't pay any capital gains. The only problem is it will be my state for inheritance tax. And you might think, God, that's wonderful, let's do that. But look, here's the thing. The journey from putting that money in and deciding to put it in, getting that business investable, to where we are now and where we'll be in the future of that business, that is not a straight line, okay? And I have, that kind of capital is at risk, of total loss. So you don't invest in any business for the tax benefits. What you do is make sure it is tax efficient and you are getting tax compensation, if you will, for the risks that you run of being an entrepreneur or running your own business. So there's nothing wrong with being tax efficient to compensate you for taking the risk of not working for someone. So that's what you're doing. You are taking the risk of running your own business. So there's nothing wrong with that, but don't get blindsided that tax is the big be all and end all. Reward. So obviously a lot of us, we are involved in businesses because of the reward, right? We want the money. But here's the thing. Yes, money is important because, you need to be rewarded, but you have to find out how much the money matters. So let's give an example. So I work, as you know, part-time for a company called Salary Finance, and they pay what they call very well. I don't, it's not really enormous sums of money. It's not bad, and don't get me wrong. Overall, it's very respectable. But compared to what I can earn from doing other things, whether it's property or whether that's consulting or other things that I might want to do with my time, it probably costs me money. But here's the thing: they compensate me fairly, but not fully for my time. But my time isn't all about money. So for me, the reason I work with them is because I get a chance to influence, I have an impact on lots of people through the work that I do with them, because they cover millions of staff. So for me, yes, I do have my own businesses, I have investments, I've got my own consulting business, and I've had businesses before, as you know. But it isn't always about the reward. So just running a business purely for reward. I mean, obviously, if you've got no money, or if you're really trying to get out the blocks, I can understand the motivation is economic to start with. I get that, but you've got to keep checking in with yourself, because if it's purely about the money, then the danger is you won't do the hard yards that's needed to get through to the other side, because business is rarely about just the money. It's about having good purpose in life. It's about a job well done. It's about getting recognition from people, even if it's a customer saying that was a fantastic job, or people respecting your business. It's status, whatever we care to say. So for me, having a good business, having a reputation was always more important than having money in the bank or a flashy car. So think about that one. And then the other one was time. Now, I want to talk about time here. A lot of people who go into businesses, however, whether it's that job for one, job with you've got a few helpers, whether it's a business that actually doesn't rely on you, or whether you're investing in other people's businesses, a business can either be a time giver or a time stealer. Now, let me just make this point now. I believe the currency of the 21st century, the most richest people are the people who have control and can dictate what they do with their time. It is not the person with 4 holiday homes, the person with the most in their pension pot, or the person with the swankiest cars, or the best looking partner, or, I don't know, a business giving them £1 million a year. What matters is that they are in control of their time and that they can decide what they put their attention onto. And so here's a little tip here with business. There's opportunity all around us. So if you're like me, I'm an abundance mindset. I believe totally there is so much abundance out there. And in order for you to be successful at anything, in my opinion, you have to be in tune with yourself. You have to be like you have to believe that you're going to be, you're worthy of money and success and choices. But here's the thing. This idea about controlling your time means you don't want to be a busy fool. And I have certainly been guilty in the past, and I know many people who run around like headless chickens. They're busy, 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 thinking being busy is being successful, right? Now, look, don't get me wrong. You need to work hard when you need to work hard, right? But you need to also rest. You also need to have thinking time. You also need to be able to sort of just chill sometimes and take some time out. What's the point in running a business or being involved in any business activity if it is a time thief? Right? So obviously, I didn't do lives for the last 3 weeks because I had other things to do and I had taken some time off, etc. And I'm sorry if I let you down there, that you thought perhaps, he's being a bit lazy. But here's the thing, I can do that, right? I can do that because I can control my time. I choose to do this and I hope it adds some value. But I can choose to do it. But it's not the big be all and end all if I don't do it. I'm in control of my time. And another thing, really just want to take this away with business. There's so much opportunity, but there's only so much time, okay? Stop thinking there isn't opportunity, or there's only so much, or people like you can't do it, or it's easy for others. It's the time that we've all got the same amount of time. So when I write a book and people say, how do you write a book? I said, well, I've got the same amount of hours and days as you have. What I do is it takes me as long as it takes to write the book, okay? And I will do it well. But I do it when it suits my agenda. Some people, we've all got our own angles there. So let's just talk about why you might not be involved in a business, or why you shouldn't get involved in a business. So whether it's one of those 4 that I mentioned at the beginning, let's just talk about that. And then I'll look at some of your comments there. Chuck your comments in the box there. I'll have a look at them in a minute. I'm very happy to hear your thoughts, ideas, comments, opinions about business-related stuff. It might not be the right time, right? A friend of mine is going through very, very tough personal time. It is not the right time for him to be pivoting his business or starting a business or expanding his business while he's got serious personal issues on the go. He won't have the bandwidth for it. He won't make good decisions, and he will have, he will make his mental and physical health worse. So sometimes it isn't the right time, but a lot of the times it is, okay? So don't put that off as excuses, but sometimes it is not the right time, okay? And it might be not the right activity. So let's give you an example. There was one business I backed. It was meant to be doing automated advice, all right? Great idea and a great concept, ahead of its time, but actually the wrong people, okay? It was the wrong people, lovely people, wrong people. So, but actually it was the wrong activity because what they were trying to deliver wasn't what actually was needed at that time. Good idea, but wasn't actually the right activity. So for me, that wasn't moving the dial. And there's a thing called sunk costs fallacy, which means that if you put time, money, and effort into something, you become like the endowment effect. You always value what you've got or what you've already spent. Well, I can't get the money or time back, right? If I believe something is not a good use of my time and money, then I will cut my losses and I move forward. And this is the other thing. If it's not the right activity for you, or you're not with the right people, or you've not got the right market, or you're not in the right area, I'm not using this as an excuse, but I'm saying be honest with yourself that actually cut your losses and move on. Give it time. Give yourself enough time. That's why I said when you go into any business activity, think what does good look like and what's my exit? A really important point. And you might not have the right experience. Let's just get this right. We do not come out of the womb as perfectly formed business people. Even people who invest in property, anyone like that, we are all learning along the way. But here's the thing. It's all one thing to learn on the job. But what I think you want to do is, if I was going to start a letting business, right? I wouldn't start a letting business tomorrow. I'd go and work in a letting business for 2 or 3 months, 6 months, learn the lingo, learn how it all works. A friend of mine runs a letting business down in Cornwall. So what I would do is I'd probably pick her brains, perhaps go and shadow her for a while, see what's what, have some video calls, just get a sense of it, do some work for her and really get into it so I've got enough experience. Don't have to be the perfect thing. You do not have to be perfect. You don't have to know all the answers, but you need to know enough so that you don't hurt yourself and make stupid mistakes. If I was going to start a financial advice business, I would go and, obviously I was in that business, but I would go and work with a financial advice business. Even if I wasn't qualified as an advisor, I'd go and try and find another job with them if I was going to run that sort of business. If I was going to, run, let's just think now, drop shipping beauty products, right? So I would speak to someone in the community online about this. There's loads of people who do all that, and just get their thoughts on it and find it. Is there a course I can go on? Is there someone I can use as a mentor? Is there a business that I can mirror? Another one is a mentor. Finding someone who's not going to rip you off, but who will be a mentor. That's important. So let's have a look at a couple of comments here then. Let's have a look at a few comments here. Crikey, you've got a few here. Right. All right, let's have a look. Right, what sectors have I invested in? Yeah, I'll answer that. So I've invested primarily in fintech, but I have invested in property. Obviously, I wouldn't say I'm the property guru. There's plenty of people like Progressive Property and Jamie York and people like that and there's loads of people online who are far more prolific in property than me. But I've done property. But fintech is the businesses that I've invested in because I understand financial services and I like technology. Anything that makes the journey better. I've been offered loads of things to invest in that I don't really understand. I was offered an opportunity to invest in a waste recycling business. Now, it all sounds great. The person I know who runs probably one of the foremost waste recycling businesses in the east of England, I asked him about it. And it was all looking really wonderful. I thought, well, this is a no-brainer, the whole recycling thing, and they've got this new technology. And he said, it's BS. He said, I've been in the business 22 years. He said, and he's very progressive, runs a very successful business. He said, and what they're trying to do there is unproven. If it works, yes, great. But that's unproven. He said, and you'll probably burn a lot of money or you have to keep investing for many, many years before you'll see any money. So I thought, okay, I don't doubt that this could be successful and I don't doubt they're nice people, but if the guy who I respect who's very successful in waste recycling is not keen for it, I may well lose an opportunity, but I think actually the chances of me losing money and time on that thing were much higher because I consulted someone who knew about it. So I invest in things that I understand or things that I'm prepared to go and find out about, okay? Letting business, I don't want to run a letting business, so I don't want to go and find out about that. Very happy to do property deals when the right one comes to me or when the right one falls into my lap, the right one happens that I can do. But again, even with property, I do that with, that kind of thing I would do with my brother because my brother is a prolific property investor, far, far more than me. And he's got more of a sense. I mean, I'm not stupid. I'm good at the tax side of things and the legal aspects and doing the numbers, but he's better at that whole, the development costs, etc. He's really good at that. So that's a good pairing. That's a safe way of me to expand my activities in that area, but without hurting myself. So yeah, sometimes the right experience is the issue. Let's have a look here. Thanks for the advice indeed. What time is it that I'm also after to be free? What was it? Thanks for all the advice. Indeed. Time is what I'm after, so to be free and do what I want. Yeah, okay. Well, George, the key thing about time is just to be careful that when any business activity that you end up with more time, not less time. Now, just one point here. Sometimes when you're in the early stages of a business, you will have less time, okay? And it's a real easy thing to get into the habit of being busy all the time, okay? You get into what I call a habit of being busy. And therefore that becomes your mode of operation, whether it's you're running around like a lunatic, or you're always looking for new things, or you're always doing stuff, or you're always telling people what to do, or you're changing things all the time and looking for it. It's great. The danger is you've got to get to a stage when you start to say no more and yes less, okay? So just be careful. You do have to be intense at the beginning of a business, particularly. I remember a friend of ours running a beauty business not far from us in the other village. When it first started, everyone was hands on deck, painting everything, getting everything ready. And she never had enough hours in the day, and she did most of the beauty treatments herself, and then she gradually hired. But here's the thing, she always knew she was going to make herself the figurehead and then bring people in her image. And we always said, well, how are you going to do that? Natalie, how are you going to make that beauty business as good with other people doing the treatments as you? She said, well, that's clear. What I'm going to do is going to hire in people who want part-time work, who were top of their field in the beauty game, but perhaps want to look after children or balance home duties with working, and I'm going to pay them a bit more than everyone else, give them flexibility, let them do part-time working, and make it an amazing space, and just really take care of them. That's what she's done. And so the people she's got are all part-time workers. And the beauty of having about 8 or 9 ladies work for her part-time is she's always got someone who can cover for someone who's ill, or someone's kid's ill, or something like that. And she's just got a really nice little business there. Let's have a little. What advice do you have for someone who wants to transition from being an employee to having their own business in the future? Good question, really good question. Well, I think the first thing is work out what good looks like, okay? So I think to yourself, there's a whole host of things that you're going to have to do. And first of all, you've got to work out, what does good look like in terms of time? Your time between working, and is there other things you want to do? What does good look like in terms of what you're going to earn? Okay, that's important. Thirdly, what does good look like in terms of you enjoying the work that you do, right? Because it's not just about the money, is it, right? So that's quite important. There's no point in giving up a job that you don't quite like for a business that you love but doesn't pay you any money, or a business that pays you a lot of money but you don't like, or you like it and it pays you lots of money but you have no time, okay? So I think what I'd say for you first and foremost is it doesn't make sense, I don't think, to just chuck your job in and start a business from scratch unless you've got the killer idea that you've been working on for 5-6 years, okay? There are people who've done that, been working on something in the background. I think what I would do is I'd find something that I think I could enjoy and I could learn from others, or I could make a living out of, and I would probably do that on the side to start with, right? So you are going to lose time to start with. Possibly find someone else who's done that, who's transitioned from being an employee to having their own business. But I think it starts with what is not working with you being an employee. Let me just say one thing now. There are a number of people out there, okay? It is no shame and it's nothing wrong with being an employee and working for someone else, okay? I've had the privilege of having some fantastic people who've worked for me over the years. When I say work for me, I always used to say work with me. Anyone who knows me, I know I'm a bit of a manic lunatic, but I've always respected and cared for and appreciated the people that work for me. So I think it's important to think to yourself, okay, can I find someone else who's done this? What is it I don't like about being an employee? Because being an employee is a worthy thing. It might be the right route for you, and what you might want to do is just a side hustle, not a business, but just earn some extra income on the side. So if you've got a skill, you can teach someone a language, or you can teach them to play the piano, or I don't know, you might like planting, gardening, do that in your part-time. There are things you can do in your part-time that don't stop you being an employee. Here's another angle which a lot of people haven't thought of. So I work part-time for a company, right? Because I won't work full-time for them. And I know you're saying it's okay for me, it's all right, I've got the financial means. But if it was about the money, I would work full-time for them, wouldn't I? But then I wouldn't have the time and I wouldn't be able to do my other things, okay? So here's a thought. Why don't you think about, in your current job, if you can find a business, a profession, a trade, an activity, or anything like that, why not think about going down to 3 days a week or 4 days a week? So only working part-time for the company. Now, I know a lot of people think this is a bit weird and it might be signalling the wrong things. You might not get the promotions. Look, you're already going to be doing something else, aren't you? So what's to stop you saying to your employer, I just need some more time and I don't want to work as much? You don't have to tell them why you need the more time, but just say to your employer, they may not work. I mean, you can do this in lots of professions, lots and lots of trades. Doing 3 days work, I know someone who works 3 days a week, okay? And they earn as much money in 3 days a week as they used to earn in 5 because they are so super good at what they do. They are so good at what they do, and they're such in demand. And it, also, by being only available for 3 days a week, people respect your time, and you end up becoming more productive. And certainly with coronavirus, employers now are much more likely and much more open to part-time roles, flexi working, etc. But part-time, I think, I've said to my 22-year-old daughter, can you afford to work for one employer full-time? Sounds weird, doesn't it? I'm just asking the question. I don't know the answer. I'm just thinking, why are people thinking about getting jobs that are full-time? Why don't we all work part-time? Make our income fit our part-time employment earnings and then build our business in our 2 days that we've got free, or our 3 days. Yeah, that's just a thought, just an idea. I've got some book recommendations for you if you're thinking of business, or you are in business, or you're looking to expand in business, or you're looking to invest in business. So here they are. Obviously, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Great book, all about what is the why. I mean, he nicked someone else's idea from years ago, but recrafted it in a fantastic narrative. Really short book, worth reading. If you're in doubt in business, or building wealth, or making your mark in the world, Start With Why is a great one. Another good one here is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Now, the E-Myth is this concept that because I'm a good technician at something, I'm going to be a good business owner, or an entrepreneur. Okay, you aren't. And what we do is we have an entrepreneurial seizure, and then we all end up hiring people that we don't really like and we don't really know how to run. And that's a brilliant book. Again, a short one. You can get the audio for £4, but the short printed one, I would never get rid of it. It's a brilliant, brilliant book. And it just talks about really, most of us own a job, we don't own a business. It'll make you think. It really will make you think. And if the person who asked the question about what would you recommend, read that book first. And then here's the third book, which not many people know of this book. And I count this as was a revolutionary book that was used in our wealth management business that helped to systemize everything. And it's called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Hang on, let's have a look now. His name is Atul Gawande. Great book. And what he says is, if you think about it, when you go on a flight, when we can go back flying, the pilot doesn't just sort of rock up, does he, and jump himself down the chair and say, right, let's rock up and let's get this thing in the sky. What happens is, about an hour and a half before you've got on that plane, people on the ground have gone through checklists, okay, of what they have to do. The pilot has to go through a checklist. Excuse me. The stewardess and stewards have to go through a checklist. Everything is a checklist. Now, once you've got checklists in your business, and in fact, Jazz Rose says this, he says the key to him scaling his business was checklists, all right? Checklists, what they do is they enable you to systemize stuff. And when we went through our business many years ago and started building checklists, and then we put them in our information technology system, what we realised was that something was taking 46 steps, when we broke that down to about 25 in the end, and eventually down to 12. But what it does is it enables you to look at your processes, it enables you to iron out inefficiencies, it enables you to make sure the right person is doing the right job, and it ensures that you're consistent. So Checklist Manifesto, fantastic book, very, very recommended. So let's have a look. We're just cracking on. Work part-time on the business until your business is proven to be able to support you. I run a business full-time and happy to speak. Yeah, so that was good. So Peter, you've done that. So why don't you direct message each other? That's a good one. Very good idea, as I said. The irony is, Peter's always a good source of knowledge, better than me. The irony is that if you go into business to have more time but have less time before you can afford to outsource more, that is the problem. Yeah, as I've said that before, Peter. Thanks for that comment. If you were to start over again, what would you do differently, knowing what you know now? Oh, London Beauty Queen, you are looking for value tonight, I can see. Do you know what I would do differently? Let's think now. And I can't go back, so I try not to dwell on this because I find it's not mentally enriching. But let's go back over it. What would I do differently? I would spend a lot less money on living. I would get used to living on the same amount of money. I'd never, ever increase my spending until I'd built enough wealth. I would have avoided debt much earlier in my life. Certainly would not borrow to invest in businesses. No way, no borrowing unless it's an appreciating asset that I know is pretty sure. So I would borrow a lot less than I did in my 20s. In terms of business, I think I would have focused on, let me think now. I think I would have focused on building strategic alliances. Certainly in the business I was in, I would have built some sort of, I think what I would have done is I'd have built the business quicker, faster, more more profitably if I'd have had a strategic partnership with a law firm or something like that, or accountancy firm. And I never did find that. And when I left my business, in fact, I left a great legal strategic partnership, which has proved to be very good. And I think what I would also have done is I'd have been a bit more contrite and a little bit more humble, and I wound my neck in a bit more. I didn't know all the answers, and I wasn't the best thing since sliced bread. But you don't know that when you're, in your late 20s, early 30s. You think you're wonderful. So I think I'd have been a bit more, had a bit more humility and been a little bit more sanguine and taken a bit of a deeper breath. But certainly, I don't regret being in financial services at all. It was looked after me very well. And be prepared to drop things that don't work for you. Let's just put that in there. Let's have a look. Let's see if we've got any other comment. We've got a few. Oh, we've got Catherine Morgan. God, we've got royalty there. Blimey. Catherine's saying Clockwork is a similar book by Michael Vitsu. Sounds like a guy from Ipswich. Yeah, good stuff. Jazz is here. God, we got the royalty. So let's just have a look then. A couple of things here. So I just want to talk about, first and foremost, don't believe everyone who tells you that business, that they're caning it and they know all the answers and it's got to be super fast. Actually, I think it's good to start really small. Start really small, prove stuff. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as they don't blow up in your face and mean you can't ever recover from them. This idea that go big or go home, I don't know where that came from. Yes, there are circumstances where that is relevant, but I think for most of us, we've got to start small, get our small failures out of the way that don't blow us off course. And I think then also be consistent. So anyone can be enthusiastic about the new best thing, but what we've got to do is I think we've got to make sure that we turn up, that we do the basics right. We mentioned checklist, manifesto, etc. That we're consistent. One of the things, obviously, I've been around a long time, so I see lots of people coming into whether it's financial services or property or investing in businesses, or angel networks, or whatever. And of course, it's great, but longevity is everything, right? So the longer you are doing something, as long as you continue to go a little bit beyond your comfort zone, you need to always be slightly out of your comfort zone. Which is why my latest book is out my comfort zone, because it's pushing me. It's pushing me to go harder. It's not about the book sales. It's about the process of writing it and creating it is making me better at what I do. So, but being consistent, and I think that's important. Let's have a look here. Also, find like-minded people. That's why social media, one of the good things about social media, if you find there are people who want to be at your same watering holes, it doesn't matter what activity you're involved in, there is someone out there who knows what you need to know. You don't have to spend money on expensive courses. I mean, yes, I know there are mentoring courses and coaching courses and there are how to do this courses, but the point I'm saying is there's plenty of people who will give you stuff for free without you taking lots of their time. They know stuff, right? They might have stuff on their YouTube channel. And if you do get some value from someone, do what you can to give some value to them, because it's about if I give you £1, you give me £1, we don't get ahead, do it. If I give you an idea and you give me an idea, if I give you encouragement, you give me encouragement, if I give you a connection, you give me a connection, that's great. We're all improving, we're all getting value. So be careful who you have around you. If you have negative people around you, all they want to do is tell you what you're doing wrong and why you're never going to get ahead. Don't get me wrong, you want truth, and that's why you have a good life partner. My wife has always told me that I'm not as good as I think I am, and that's keep my feet on the ground. So, but the point there, I'm saying you need someone to tell you the truth, but what I mean is you need to know their intent. And the point here for most of us is if we hang around the wrong people, we're not going to get the right results. Always be learning. Got to be humble, right? You will never stop learning to the day you die. You will be learning every single day. And if you think you aren't, then you're not going to be. Just the thing about, if you ever hire people, whether it's professionals, whether it's staff, whether it's contractors, always, always, always hire for attitude, because you can always teach skills. If you get someone who's got the brilliant CV but's got the wrong attitude, I promise you, you will be pushing Walker uphill. They are drama. You want people who think like a business owner, even if they don't want to be one. You want people who are diligent. You want people who care. You want people who are empathetic. You want people who will do that extra, if they can. But you want also people who are comfortable in their own skin. Okay. We've all got our own issues in life. We all come from different backgrounds. But you want people who are what I call genuine people, right? And if they're down or they can't do stuff or they've got problems, they should be honest with you. So again, hire for attitude, not skills. Be flexible, right? Life doesn't go in a straight line. And one of the things that differentiates successful people, or successful in the widest sense, rich in the widest sense, is that they're very flexible, right? And they don't take things personally, you know, and they understand what they can control and what they can't control. And here's the final thing I want to leave you with. Anything you do in life, whether it's running a business or whether it's health and fitness, you've got to enjoy it, right? Enjoy the journey. I know it sounds a bit hackneyed saying, I'm going to leave you with this, but you've got to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to be dead one day, right? And obviously I'm 52, so I've got less in the tank than many of you listening to me today. But I've become much more aware that, you know, I know that time is the thing that really, for me, is the big currency. It's something that really matters. So don't waste it. And here's the thing. Another great book to read is The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. Brilliant book. It sounds a bit depressing, but what she did was she was a palliative care nurse, and what she did was she found that there were 5 things, very common things that most people do. And here's the thing. Most people regretted the things that they hadn't done as opposed to the things they did do. So, you know, make it count, right? Really, really important for you to grab life by the horns. Well, look, all I would say just in finalising there, so business, just to summarise that, business can be a job that we own. It can be a job where we've got some helpers in and we're in that dodgy ground of becoming both a technician and a kind of manager that we don't really want to be because we're busy. We can have a business that is capable of running without us, but we've got to then decide how big we want it to be. Do we want to keep it small? Do we want to grow it? Do we want it to be an enterprise that we sell? And then there's investing in you know money, time, or contacts, or introductions to other people's businesses, which is what I do quite a lot of. So that's all genuine, right? And all of those are relevant. And then we talked about, didn't we? We talked about you could actually, transitioning from an employee to non-employed, you could actually go part-time, right? Learn a thing on the side. Be very wary of people who say that you can go and invest in property tomorrow and give up your job next week. Property is a way of building wealth, and there's certainly you can use leverage carefully, modestly to accentuate that, but it comes with risks, right? There is no shortcuts to anywhere in the life that is worth going, okay? Everything takes effort, everything takes oversight, everything takes focus, everything takes knowledge. So there we go. You might want to, just to give you a bit of an uplift, you might want to watch my video about how I got £500,000 refund from HMRC for VAT when everyone told me I was wrong. Everyone, right? Including lawyers, tax advisors, and I proved them wrong. So one thing about being in business is you have to be single-minded. Yes, listen to people. Yes, get the right people around you, but you have to be single-minded. And if that's not you, there's no shame with being an employee as long as you are finding your path. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks, everyone.